Welcome everyone to a special edition of Story Trading. We got the CEO of Richardson Electronics here, ticker symbol RELL, along with some other management. Before we get into that, we got to do a couple housekeeping notes. Okay, there's a disclaimer. Story Trading is not an investment advisor. Investing in securities involves significant risk of loss. If you're not already familiar with Story Trading, you can head over to our website, find out all about it, become a VIP, sign up for our upcoming app. We have tons of VIP picks, and this is a VIP pick by Julian in our community. So you can go check that out. Again, ticker symbol RELL. Last trade, I don't know where it closed out, but it was $14.85 when I made this presentation, around the 200 million market cap. Now, Julian first told us about this, or we first selected it really unofficially as a VIP pick on November 11th when the stock price was $11.75, but it wasn't officially presented until after this great earnings report, Q2 earnings report they just had. So we'll talk about that. And before we turn it over to Ed, the CEO, just one last thing. Here's a quick look at the chart. This is a weekly chart, I believe, going all the way back to 1992, or maybe this is even monthly, so you can get the big picture. And what we hope to achieve by collaborating in a community and interviewing management is an understanding of the story trading 4 pillars. That's fundamentals, sentiment, catalysts, and technicals, which will help us make better informed investment decisions. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and welcome Ed Richardson.
So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you, Ed, so much for all those details. I'm going to keep it high level for my part, and maybe some other people have detailed questions. But, the reason I got interested in the story, and a lot of people did, was that last quarter Q2, the 30-cent EPS print was pretty big, and sequentially it went up from 20 cents the prior quarter. And I'm looking at this in a market where growth stocks are selling off and going into value stocks. And I'm wondering here, do we have a company that's both, right? A value company and a growth company, and that's the exciting part of what I'm looking at here. So I will have a few questions kind of surrounding that, but if you could I just want to get the numbers right. The first half of this year, you did 50 cents total, 20 cents, 30 cents. And then are you guiding for 85 to 95 cents this year? So the remainder of the year will be 35 to 45 cents for the second half of the year. Did I hear that right?
Well, that's true, but we like to underpromise and overperform. I have scar tissue from getting out on a limb and forecasting some big numbers and then not making them. So I like to put a number out there and overperform if we can. So it's pretty obvious. We're running at $55 million a quarter, and we made 50 cents in the first 6 months. So if we just double it, we ought to be up close. But at the end of the year, we pay out a lot of additional incentives. Anybody that's over 100% in incentives, they get paid out at the end of the year, and things are really good. So a lot of people have a lot of cash coming in the fourth quarter, and that'll have some impact.
Okay. Just to make sure I heard you right, though, I think you said next year with 215, it's 177 million this year, but next year guiding for 215 million, that's the same 85 or 95 cents?
No, last year, see, we're on a fiscal year. It goes from June 1st to the end of May. And last year in 2021, we did 177 million. And this year, the year ending in May, we'll do 215, maybe 220 million.
Okay.
And that we're guiding to probably 90, 95 cents, something like that.
Right. I got that. That makes sense. So now what I want to try to figure out here is, can you point to something internally with the company that is leading to this inflection, right? Is it some synergies and with how you're operating your business? Is it the patents, or is it completely external to the company? What can you point out? First of all, do you feel you're at an inflection looking at, the long history of your company, or do you think this is more cyclical or temporary? Give us some insights into that.
It's only taken us 75 years to get here, and 50 years of my career, at least, maybe 60, I hate to admit it. We just have worked so long with these various businesses, that we found the most efficient way to go to market in each one of the businesses that we work in. And with the exception of healthcare, every business is at its pinnacle. And that doesn't come by accident. It's not the market, it's what we do. And that's going to continue. So I think with the backlog we have and the inertia that the company has, I think you can look at 15 to 20% growth every year for as long as I can think. My mother worked for the company until she was 95, and my ambition is to work longer than she did.
Okay. All right, great. Have there been any thoughts about, with COVID and supply chain issues, is it possible some of the, boom you're having now, are people they're stocking up their inventory, and maybe when things get better as supply chains, your revenue would go down? Is there any possibility that's happening?
No, I think the other thing has happened, maybe now the current COVID thing has an impact, but people, they thought we were coming out of COVID, and that's why you saw people break out pleasure craft in the marine business and the radar orders take off, and also in executive aircraft that were in use. And I don't know, the way I feel about it, that the current COVID issue is not anywhere near as serious. Even people here, they're only quarantined for 5 days and they're back to work, and nobody seems to get really sick. It's like having the flu. So I hope anyway that the worst of it is over with.
Okay.
Ben, I'd like to add to that too, Ben, in that what I found, especially with these large growth markets that we're in, the pandemic didn't have any effect on the customer's needs for our capabilities. And I believe in the 5G infrastructure, I think it expedited it. So, our product is especially the Ultra 3000, et cetera, there's no double ordering of those. And so, it's a market that, as this green initiative kicks off, for 75 years, we have a lot of different things, but it's RF and power based. The tubes are RF and power, and then the PMG products are. So I think a little bit it's expedited and expanded the products and the capabilities that we have that the pandemic did.
Great. So listen, I have no shot at understanding all of the different electronics you make and how exactly it works. And probably a lot of your investors don't either. Maybe I could if I spent a lot of time studying it, but I want to understand big picture. You mentioned you're an engineered solutions company. So Can you explain a little bit what brings all of your different segments under one umbrella, and what really is your competitive advantage?
Well, it started with the tube business, and we went from being a distributor into manufacturing. And as we did that, we assembled the largest number of RF and microwave engineers that I think exist under one roof in the world. And it's that resource, people can come to us with all these different ideas of a product that they want built. And if it's possible to deliver it, we deliver it. And I think it's that resource that every one of the businesses have been built like that. I mean, even Canvas, we started out manufacturing CRTs, and here we are 40 years later, we're doing custom LCDs for the largest medical manufacturers in the world. And that's, look at the ultracapacitor business. We distributed ultracapacitors for 15 years. So all that experience put us in a position that when the wind turbine operators wanted a company that could produce the modules, we could do it. We had the RF engineers and we had the experience with the product to be able to put it all together and do what they wanted. And that's the company. It's all the resources of 450 people and all these engineers under one roof.
Okay, got it. And do you have a competitor that's very similar to how you do business?
Not that I'm aware of. It's certainly in the semiconductor business, you have the Arrows and the Avnets, but they're strictly commodity distributors. And our claim to fame is engineering the products and helping the customers find the best product that's out there for their application.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. I can't wait to get to the green energy and the EV stuff. That's what I'm most interested in. I'll save that for last. you brought up semiconductors. I'm curious, TSM today announced a 45 billion CapEx project. Do you think some of that business will trickle down to you guys?
Greg, TSM?
Yeah, it's the products they build, again, we're such a focused in niche applications, it won't have a lot of effect on our business. You know, we work so closely daily, hourly with our suppliers that we're in good shape in terms of delivery and inventory to support our customers' current and future needs. So that type of stuff has more effect on the abinets and arrows, as Ed mentioned.
Okay. If you could kind of looking forward in the next 2 years, let's say, which area do you think which part of your business could potentially have the most upside optionality to the top line? So meaning that it's not for, let's say you gave us 215 million, right, for this year, but meaning what can provide a beat? And next, what's the most likely area for a top line beat?
It's the ultra capacitor, the green energy. I mean, if you look at the wind turbine opportunity followed by the cellular base stations and the idea of replacing every lead acid battery in the world with an ultra capacitor or something similar, it's just incredible what the opportunity and what the total market is there. And we have all the engineering and the talent and the experience to do that. And what we have to do is to find more engineers. You can all help us. If you know any engineers out there, refer them this way because we can't hire them fast enough.
Got it.
Yeah, right.
So I think I heard you say you were guiding for 20 to 25% or 20 to 30% annual growth.
No, we're guiding to 20%.
20% annual growth.
Yeah,
so,
we want to underpromise and overperform.
Got it. So if there's going to be optionality, surprise to the upside, you think most likely it'll come from the green energy sector?
Yes, I think
okay.
So. Absolutely.
That's perfect. I got it. That makes sense. And in terms of driving profitability, same answer, or is there a different answer to that? What's going to drive the most profitability?
Same answer. It's just incredible. You know, we've invested $1 million in that business, and the first order we get is $10 million at 35%. And the order and the orders coming on from there are at a much higher margin as well because we've got the patents and the protection. We're sole source.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. I can't wait to dig into this. But one question before I dig into the green energy. Longer term, is there any thought? Again, I'm trying to understand, and I think I do, but I'm not sure. Are all of these businesses synergistic, in terms of the engineered solutions, or are there any areas of the business that are a little bit disparate from the other, where in the future it might make sense to sell it or spin it off? Can you give us some color to that, going like longer term thinking?
Yeah, all the three main businesses, with healthcare, with EDG and PMG, they're all based pretty much on engineering, either RF or microwave, or in the case of CT and X-ray engineers. The one business that's different is display, and we set it up autonomously to sell it, and we don't want to sell it because it's making so much money. But that's different. I mean, it takes a display engineer, and they have knowledge that's different from the RF and microwave engineers that have built the rest of the business.
Okay, so the ultra capacitor part of the business, that's also something that is kind of shared with, aside from Canvas, the healthcare and the ultra capacitor side is the same kind of strength.
Absolutely. We've been in the power management business going clear back to when we manufactured ignitrons and SDRs for AC/DC converters. And so the power management business is something we know for 50 years and have engineers that can support it.
Okay, great. So now to the fun part, green energy, ultra capacitors. Can you give us a little understanding? I've heard ultra capacitors have been around for a long time. So what's different now? Why are these lead acid batteries being replaced now? And can anyone else do it instead of you?
Greg could probably comment, but I would say it's reliability and price. And if I understand correctly, the distributor price on the ultracapacitor we used at one time was $90, and we're buying them now for probably 20% of that. And we pass that along to the customer. So it's reliability and the fact that the prices come way down. Greg, you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's like most technologies over the years, the 15 years, the technology has improved. It's reduced cost and increased performance. And the cost and the performance has gotten to the point where we'll talk about the wind turbines, that it's cost effective for them now to replace lead acid batteries with a product that's now cost competitive to the actual battery itself, which it wasn't, years ago. Performs better and longer, and they've done their complete ROI, and it's just a matter of time. We have a rollout schedule with these large owner operators, and they want to get it done over the next 5 years.
And what's your competitive advantage? I know you said Tesla bought Maxwell. Are there, again, what's your answer to people say, hey, this is like an old technology, it's a commodity, anyone else can do what you're doing? Why is that not true?
Well, we have the patents on the product, that our engineers have been able to do the circuitry that makes it unilaterally interchangeable with the GE system. And there are other competitors out there, but they don't have that technology. And so far, at least we know all the main operators of wind turbines in the United States, and those companies have not been successful.
Okay, great. So let me understand the different potential opportunities here. We got the wind turbines. You have the cell towers, right, with
Right.
Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile.
Right.
You mentioned EV and EV charging. Is that also part of the ultracapacitor opportunity?
Yes, it's all part of the power management group, and the electric vehicles, electric locomotives. We have products and designs in both the charging station and the actual, in this case, vehicle themselves, the car, as I mentioned, with Ben Smart, and then with Progress Rail and Caterpillar.
The Progress Rail and Caterpillar opportunity is incredible. To start with, in each one of the locomotives, if I have it correctly, there's 470 modules at $5,400 each in each locomotive. So the first order we have is 2.7 million, but that's for one electric locomotive, and there's 39,000 of them in the world.
I didn't even know there were electric locomotives out there yet. And how about the EV cars, opportunity in there?
Yeah, on the car side, it's really going to probably be on the charging stations, the inverter specifically that goes in the charging station. The electric vehicles themselves, I don't know what type of battery technology it will be. It could be ultracapacitors. We have seen some designs for buses, but I think the batteries that will go into a electric vehicle will be lithium ion, or it could be another product developed. I saw Tesla did develop a battery specific to their cars. So what we're going to see it is more the high power applications and the high energy storage applications, such as wind turbines, generators, power supplies, bridge systems. So
with Tesla buying Maxwell, I assume something's going in their EV cars. Do you know exactly what they're doing with that?
It's a battery charge, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they bought Tesla. Tesla bought Maxwell specifically for their small cell ultracapacitors. They discontinued the product line of the high power ultracapacitors that are used in wind turbines. That product line was discontinued, and the reason Tesla bought Maxwell was specifically for a specific technology, which we really don't participate in today.
Okay, so it sounds like your opportunity is not in EV cars, but EV charging and EV locomotives, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I didn't hear solar mentioned, but I saw it somewhere on your website or I just saw solar somewhere. I forgot where it was. Is that an opportunity?
Yeah, it's early. Years ago, we manufactured solar collector tubes in partnership with the University of Chicago. And the professors at Dr. Roland Winston, that is probably the #1 guru in solar energy, And he went to the University of California, Merced, and we worked with him there, actually donated some money to help them in that area. And we're trying to learn. We've contacted him again recently and told him that we have these opportunities in solar. We'd like to hire some of their engineers. So he's talking to the graduates and some of the engineers that are in school now to see if we can come up with some engineering in that area. But in every solar application, they also have, you know, a uninterrupted power supply using lead acid batteries. We just don't know how big the market is and what has to be done to be able to address that market. We talked to our engineers here, and they don't think it's anywhere near as large as the wind turbine market, but solar in and above itself is probably 10 times as large as the wind turbine market. So we're trying to investigate to see where we fit.
We do play in it, Ben. We're active mainly on the component side. You know, as I mentioned before, we have these engineered solutions which come out of the component side, but we also design in individual components into a customer system. And in every solar panel, there's an inverter application that, you know, obviously converts it to power, electricity. And we have a number of technology partners, and we sell the components into those applications. And we've been doing that for years. It's just not as large currently as the ultra capacitor market, specific to what I'll just call energy storage. In fact, if you broke it down, the 4 key and largest markets within power management are wind energy, and then it'd be electric vehicles or any type of electric vehicle. Then it is solar energy, but mainly from a component point of view. But we continue to look for engineered solutions. And the final one, which is the largest, and that's where the Ultra Bridge 3000 will come into place, is energy storage. Any application where there's a need for energy storage, it seems to be the technology of choice is evolving into ultra capacitors and ultra capacitor modules.
You know what? I just realized I may not have understood something between the cell towers, and then you talked about a 5G business. Is that the same or different?
No, I mean, other than I spent first part of my career in the RF business with Motorola in the cellular business. The only reference to cellular is the fact that the generator is at the bottom of a cell tower. You know, we have a good group that has contacts and relationships, former T-Mobile employees. And it's just the same issue. And really what Richardson does a lot is just fix the customer's problem. And the problem is that a lot of these cell towers, like a wind turbine, are in remote locations. The batteries are car batteries, and we know how often they fail. And it's very costly to replace them. Our Ultra Gen 3000, which we've done a press release on, one of the great attributes of that, it's remote monitoring. So we put a wireless capability in that the owner operator or the subscriber that owns the cell site can monitor the battery strength, or in this case, the Ultra Gen 3000 battery strength remotely. You can't do that with the current lead acid battery. So it's I guess you could call it 5G because it goes at the bottom of a 5G base station, but it's a power management application.
Okay, so if I had to summarize maybe in layman's terms, the ultra capacitor is a new, better battery. I know maybe I haven't seen people refer to it as a battery, but layman's terms, right? You're taking a better technology, better battery that's going to last longer than lead acid, and you're replacing windmills with that, cell towers with that, EV charging kind of related, and maybe solar backup, solar power in the future. Is that kind of summarize it right?
Yeah, and also
general.
yeah, and you know, critical facilities, and again, that's all generator based, but yeah, that's a good breakdown.
Okay, so last question from me is I asked you which segment of your business would have the optionality upside. You said the ultra capacitors, but within ultra capacitors, whether it's wind, cell, EV, solar, within the next 2 years, which one of these have the best potential for really surprising to the upside on the top and bottom line?
No question, it's wind, because right now we've just addressed the GE market in the US, where they have 60% of the market, but the US is probably only 10% of the world market. And, we haven't, other than Europe, we haven't gone outside the world market. And so working with people like Vestas, who's the largest manufacturer in the world, I believe in the free world anyway, there's opportunities for the future. And there's no question, there's more upside in wind turbine and ultracapacitor business than anything else that we're addressing that we know of at the moment.
And the EV charging, I mean, I see so much growth in EV charging, and all the companies in that space are doing incredible in the last year. Why is that not an area you're more excited about?
Well, we sell discrete components into that product. And
Right.
yeah.
And I wouldn't doubt if down the road, there's a small niche EV charging company that
We built them at one
we
time.
used to build them here for the
Yeah.
Chevy Leaf. Is it the Chevy Leaf?
Uh,
Volt, Chevy Volt.
Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
Nissan
Well,
Leaf.
we built them for the Chevy Volt, yeah. I think down the road, there'll be opportunities for engineered solutions for that, but right now, the relationships and the product we're designing in is at a component level. That's obviously going very, very strong, but in terms of what's going to be the lead horse is obviously just because of the size and our already existing relationships in business and technology and patents is going to be the wind turbine market.
Okay.
In the PM system. But I always want to add one more thing. The fourth new product I mentioned before was the Ultra UPS 3000, which is the universal power supply. Those are within the wind turbine also. So what's great about that product is we already have the relationships, we have the proven technology with the key owner operators of wind turbines in North America. And of course, that's going to grow outside of North America. When that product's available, we already have the existing beta sites. Every one of them have told us that's their second biggest issue in terms of lead acid batteries. And we feel very strongly that we'll have a product for beta site testing this fiscal year. And again, we already have those relationships and proven relationships and technology on the Ultra 3000. So the step function will be quite fast compared to introducing new products like we've done in the past.
Okay, great. I am done with my questions. I know it's running over an hour, but I do want to ask Julian, Sanjay, and Chris. I'm sure we'll have other opportunities for specific detailed questions, but while the management team's here, if there's any big picture questions you guys think I missed, go ahead. You could unmute yourself and raise your hand or whatever is your opportunity if there's something pressing you think I missed. Sanjay?
Thank you, Ben. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. So a lot of my questions have been covered. And Ed, as you said, you run a very complicated business. So the question I have is, how do you support a global footprint carrying thousands of products, dozens of partners, 20,000 customers with 400 people?
Good question.
Well, we've got a lot of good people. That's what I'll say. And we put in a lot of hours. Nobody believes in 40-hour weeks around here. By the way, we're working Saturdays and Sundays and second shifts right now, trying to produce all the product. No, it's the people in the business. We've been a family operated company. My mom and dad were both in the business, and I think people feel like they work for a family company. We didn't let anybody go during COVID, and that's the way we run a business, and people work to support you that way. So it's the entire team that makes it work.
That's great to hear. So how many engineers do you have in your solutions team?
I think totally there's probably 75 engineers. Most of them are in the field. They're out. They're sales engineers, but they know how to pick up these opportunities, and then they transmit them back to the manufacturing fellows. Where we're short are design engineers. We need more, that's for sure.
Oh, awesome. So I just want to circle back on ultra capacitors. My understanding was that capacitors, they're good for quick burst of energy, right? You store them, but then the energy is released very quickly. But if you're trying to replace lead acid batteries that actually store energy for a long time and they slowly release it, I mean, what has changed when it comes to ultra capacitors that they can now perform the function of a lead acid batteries?
Yeah, so I mean, there's numerous batteries. The application for ultracapacitors, ultracapacitor, you have a shorter amount or less storage, but a larger increase in power when you need a surge to, in this case, a vehicle or a wind turbine. We also have a global agreement with Emil Green Tech, which has lithium-ion batteries, which is the ones used in the locomotives, because that applications, they want longer storage, higher storage, but they need less power output and just the charging time. I mean, one of the applications we're working on right now is for stores and warehouses with forklifts. Every night they got to plug those things in and they sit there doing nothing for 12 hours as they charge. With ultracapacitor technology, you can charge it, and lithium-ion charging, you can charge it within hours and be functional. So it's just the technology has improved year over year for these applications, and they've gotten the cost down for that.
All right, great. So I was going through a presentation, and the addressable market for Ultra 3000 Gen, Ultra 3000 Gen was only $250 million. Now those, I mean, there are 395,000 cell sites, there's 64,000 facilities, 5.9 million commercial buildings in the world. So I think your TAM is probably too small. I mean, 250 million sounds nothing.
You're probably right. You know, we always try to be conservative, and we look at what our served available market is, and not the total market that's out there.
Oh, okay. My next question is about hydrogen production from methane gas. So you are working with 3 startups in that area.
Yes.
Has the technology to produce hydrogen matured enough, and is it commercially viable? What's your impression of that? Because I know there are a lot of companies that are working on hydrogen, but you're probably closer to it than many of us.
Right. Well, as far as we're concerned, at this point, there's startups, and we want to help them, but we're not really sure. I can give you the names of the companies if you like that we're working with.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the one company is called Transform Materials, and they're in Riviera Beach, Florida. And the second one is called Lyten, L-Y-T-E-N, Inc. And 3D Graphene is the second part of their name. 3D Graph, G-R-A-P-H, E-N-E. And they're in San Jose, California. And the third one is H-Quest in Vanguard, Pennsylvania. And you can look up their websites and see what they're doing.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Synthetic diamonds, again, I think they have been around for many, many years. Is there any particular reason the demand is going through the roof right now?
Yeah, I think they've improved the efficiency of building them and the quality of what they're building. Originally, it was for industrial diamond application. And now they've improved the quality so much and reduced the price to where the synthetic diamond quality is almost better than the real diamond. It doesn't have fluorescence, it doesn't have inclusions. They're actually too perfect, but I guess for the younger set that is bent on using things with green energy rather than using the resources of this earth, that synthetic diamonds have more appeal than the real ones.
All right. Okay, and a few questions around the medical segment. So I just need a clarification here. I'm sure I'm missing something. So Wendy often talks about Canon scanners coming off the OEM service contracts. But I mean, Canon probably has been around for a long time. They probably have staggered contracts in time. I mean, shouldn't some of them be already off? Or do they have to go and renew with Canon because there is no other option?
No, there definitely are, there's Canon equipment that is off service contract. That is correct. And when we first started, I think we estimated about 80% of the Canon equipment was still covered under service contract because there were no third-party CT tube options. Once we came out with the tube, that was the first one. Now more of that equipment can come off the contract. But the problem is that, again, some hospitals are a little wary of taking their equipment off of the OEM contract if they have other equipment that still has to stay under contract because there isn't replacement parts available. And so once we launch the second tube in that series, we cover more of the Canon install base. And so more of that equipment now can come off contract. That's what we're referring to.
Okay. And let's actually, sorry, one more question along the same lines. If a hospital has, let's say, multiple Canon scanners through their network, will they be comfortable going to, let's say, third party for some of their scanners, but still stay with Canon for most of their scanners? Can they split?
Yes, they
They
can
can?
split. Yes, they can. They can make that decision any way they want.
Oh, okay. That's very good to know. And if, let's say, if a scanner uses a tube supplied by you, whether it's a new or whether it's a repaired one, does the original warranty on the scanner is still valid from Canon?
You know, those warranties on the scanners are usually up in 3 years, and the majority of what we're targeting are scanners that have been out of warranty for some time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's very helpful. Okay, and that's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the questions. Call us anytime you have further questions.
Will do. Thank you.
Great. Maybe the very last question. I think Chris, you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I've got some that I'll probably have to circle back with you on because they're a little geeky. But just one clarification on the design wins for the EV charging companies. I think you mentioned they're using chips from Qorvo. What's your layer of value add in there between the chips and the the charging stations?
Yeah, we just function mainly as an extension of our customers' engineering departments. So a lot of these companies do not have board level component design engineers on staff because they're building a system. And so that's our value added. We have, board level design engineers in the field who have come from, the industry and some of our suppliers, et cetera. And so we've actually, we're in their design with them. We're right there, and using our technology partners, we suggest and give them product and technology knowledge that's out there that they don't have to research. So we just function mainly as a value-added extension of their engineering departments for them.
And do you end up supplying them with the board with the Qorvo chips in them, or how does that work?
Yes, we have in the past. We provided boards for the digital broadcast industry years ago, where we were designing the components for people like Harris, and we ended up providing them a 50 ohm block for their amplifiers. But in this case, we designed in the components with them, and then they buy the components from us for that work.
Okay. And so will they end up getting a finished unit from you that incorporates these things that they plug into their overall system in the charging station?
No, I don't know if they, get other components that we're not involved in, like semiconductors and the communication part of it. Ours is mainly the power or RF portion of it. And then they take that and outsource it to somebody else to build. But what they get from us is the individual components. And then they either, manufacture it themselves internally or outsource it to like a Selectron or a Sigmatron to do the pick and place of the components on the board themselves.
Okay. So, I mean, they're working with you and you've got a relationship with them, but like in theory, they could buy those components from a non-value added supplier, or do they have a reason they have to now go through you for those components?
Yeah, the agreements we have with all of our technology partners, if we register the design, so we identify it, we register it, and we register it with the supplier, in this case, Qorvo, we're made exclusive for that program. They can't buy it from anyone else other than us because we've registered it with our suppliers. That's the agreement we have with them.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. All right. I'll leave it at there because it's, we're getting close to 6 o'clock here.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Well, call us anytime. We're here and we're happy to answer your questions.
All right. I'll definitely follow up with some of the more niggly ones that, I don't want to waste everybody's time with.
Okay.
No problem. My email is ed@rell.com.
All right. Easy to remember.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
All right. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks to you all.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch. Wish you the best of success on the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody.
All right, great. And
Good
just want to
evening.
remind those
Yeah.
of you watching the replay here on YouTube, if you're not a VIP member, you could join us at StoryTrading and collaborate in the RELL research group. Check out all our events. We have lots of great events coming up, and follow us on social media, YouTube and Twitter. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.